welcome to That's Based. Happy Saturday. We're back. I'm your host, as always, Caleb Salvatore, reporting from somewhere underground. We're laughing our way through the end of days, brought to you by Outlaw Streamers Live 365 on Chris Baker Radio and our friends over at Blood of Tyrants Wines. If you go to drinkbloodofTyrants.com and you use the promo code BASED, B-A-S-E-D, like the title of the show, you're going to save 10% off your order at the checkout. They've got the red Blood of Tyrants Merlot wine and the white Tears of Tyrants wine. I am very much a red wine drinker myself, but you should get whatever tickles your pickle. DrinkBloodofTyrants.com with the promo code BASED, B-A-S-E-D, like the title of the show. You're going to save 10% off your order at the checkout. One more time, DrinkBloodofTyrants.com. Promo code BASED to save 10% off your order at the checkout. Also, announcement, a week from today at Beach House Bar and Grill at 9 p.m., we have got the Verbal Assault Comedy Roast Battles hosted by none other than yours truly. And I'm going to be donating my entire portion of the proceeds after overhead's paid for to help buy some Christmas presents for the kids up on the reservation in Macy. On Mia's tribe, the Omaha tribe up there. You can send money directly to her if you can't make it, and she will get it to them. Mia, S-H-R-O-E-D-E-R on Venmo. M-I-A-S-C-H-R-O-E-D-E-R on Venmo. Every dollar counts, but you should send more. Make some kids Christmas. How about that? How about we don't be the pieces of shit that the left says we are this year? How about we do that? That would be a good deal. I'm sitting here. I'm at my desk in my studio here at the Somewhere Underground studio, and I'm looking. I just saw that I left this here because it's not. We're not all that organized here at That's Based at the Somewhere Underground studio. I'm looking. I've still got my invoice from the state of Illinois for unpaid tolls, and I look at this. I went through 9 toll booths. And you know how the toll booths anymore, you don't actually drive through and see a person. They just take a picture of your license plate and they send it to you in the mail. So I got this thing in the mail. I went through 9 tolls my entire time in Illinois, which is a racket. When you consider what those people pay on taxes, when you consider that I entertainment there, if you wanted to do anything that's considered entertainment in the city of Chicago, you're paying like over 20% in taxes on it. Don't you think they'd have enough money not to rake people over the coals? But no, that's what happens in these big dark blue states where they just spend as they tax people more. That's how it works. They find ways to nickel and dime people. So I'm looking at this invoice right here I got in the mail. I have a total of my 9 tolls. It's $16.90, which is not honestly that bad. I mean, that's about par for the course on tolls. Whatever. That's not the part I'm upset about. The part I'm upset about is that they charged me a $3 invoice fee. Now, it's not a single $3 invoice fee. It's not a single $3 invoice fee. If they charge me $3 one time because I get it, they got to mail it out, whatever, that's fine. You want to charge me $3 for the labor it took to print this thing off and send it to me in the mail, then fine. They charged me $3 per toll on one piece of paper. There's one invoice. So I have $16.90 in tolls and $27 in invoice fees. The invoice fees are almost twice the actual toll. That's where they get you. It did not take them $27 worth of labor to send me this piece of paper in the mail. I promise you. I've never worked for the government before. That's a lie. I did have a brief stint. I did a contract for that. Well, anyway, I don't work for the government. I've never been a government employee. So I don't know the ins and outs of how things work. But $27 is not how much it costs to mail me a piece of paper that was probably generated by AI, by a computer. So I will pay my $16.90 in tolls. They will have to come to my house and put a bullet between my fucking eyes if they want that $27 invoice fee. That's how this is going to go. I ain't paying it. I'm the wrong one. I did this shit to Kansas and they dropped it. You're fucking with the wrong guy, Illinois. You think I give a shit? I actually have people I love that live in Kansas. I never have to return to your shithole state. Put a fucking warrant out for my arrest. I'll never be back. Fuck you. They won't put a warrant out for my arrest. They'll sell me to collections, and then I'll get harassed by bill collectors, whom I will call very offensive slurs that would get me removed from the radio if I said them. And I'll have fun with them because they're not going to sue me for $27. So that's how this will go. Okay, we got a condensed show for you today. Mia, like I said, she is not here today. She will be back next Wednesday. She's got some stuff she had to take care of when we're pre-taping this show this week. So she will be back Wednesday and then, of course, back next Saturday as well. Other announcement. Then I promise we'll get into the show. The week of Christmas, the entire week, we're not going to have a show. So we'll have a show the Saturday before, the 20th or whatever day that is. We will not have any shows all week. Want to give everybody a little break for the holidays. We're going to be out of town. There's no sense in doing a bunch of work. That's a dead time. Nobody's listening to fucking podcasts over Christmas anyway. So we're just going to take the week off, and then we'll be back New Year's. Maybe we'll do another end of the year show. I don't know. But no show the week of Christmas. So don't come at me. We gave you guys a little gift with the thing. It's 2 Thanksgivings in a row. I didn't plan on doing a show. I pulled them out of my ass. Excuse me. You're welcome, by the way. Let's get into the show, though. So Mia's not here, so we will do a condensed show. We're not going to do Store Brand TMZ. We're not going to do Current State of the Left this week. That'll be back next Saturday. But to quote Dikembe Mutombo, not today. So we got a whole bunch of stuff going on this week. We've got fraud in Somalia. We have got a National Guard shooting, the Tennessee special election. We've got some updates on same-sex marriage, all flight traveling for the holidays, all kinds of fun stuff we're going to talk about. But first, let's talk about what's going on in Minnesota. Oh, my Lord. So they already had what was called a year ago the Feeding Our Future scandal, where you had, it was just millions and millions of dollars worth of welfare fraud. Well, now a couple different reporters and watchdogs have dug into what's going on in Little Mogadishu, Minneapolis, under Governor Tampon Tim, Coach Sandusky himself, and they found that this whole fraud and money laundering scandal was a little bit more sinister than just common welfare fraud. We hear about welfare fraud all the time, and that doesn't mean it's okay, but usually when you hear about welfare fraud, it's people that are misrepresenting funds, and they're buying nice houses and cars and shit like that with it. What we're finding out about what's going on in Minnesota goes far deeper than that. So as you all know, Minneapolis is the hub in this country for Somalis. You've got more Somali refugees there than anywhere else in the country. And what was going on over there was you had Somalian refugees begun opening up autism clinics. Now, the reason they were opening, if you ask them, the reason they were opening these autism clinics up, or treatment centers as they called them, was because they felt that the doctors at the traditional hospitals in Minneapolis didn't know how to properly treat someone in Somalia, or someone from Somalia, who suffered from, they were claiming there was a big cultural divide, which, okay, maybe. But as soon as these clinics started opening up in 2018, you saw the rate of autism among Somali children skyrocket. I mean, you're talking 1 in every 5 or 6 kids was being diagnosed, that was Somali, was being diagnosed with autism, which is way more than the national average, or even just the average in Minnesota. Obviously, a lot of Tylenol in the Somali community. But so you start seeing this just skyrocket. And the amount of money being spent on autism from the state of Minnesota, from Medicaid and Medicare, was about $5 million a year in 2018. By 2023, that had skyrocketed to over $300 million, and it never raised a red flag with anybody in the great state of Minnesota. Nobody thought that was a little suspicious. Tampon Tim certainly didn't. So what it turns out, if you believe these watchdog groups, and they've done a lot of research connecting the dots on this, they were opening up fake autism clinics. They popped up all over the city. And what they would do is they would go in to these. Some of these, by the way, were, if you even bothered to look, the state of Minnesota obviously had no audit, because if you bothered to look at where these autism clinics, they were being set up at people's houses, at apartment complexes, warehouses, all over the place, right? So what happened was they would send these kids to these autism clinics, these fake autism clinics. They would get, quote unquote, diagnosed with autism, and then the Medicaid money would go directly to the clinics. So Medicaid would pay the clinics for whatever treatment the kids needed. However, the kids were not actually receiving any treatment. And that's the thing with autism, is it's not really something you can treat with a pill or a shot. It's a lot of therapy and exposure. So it's not like you could say, look, we've got all these pills coming in and here's the proof of the invoices. It's kind of just a handshake agreement, which makes it very appetizing for a would-be money launderer. So they were getting all this money from Medicare, by the way, for Medicaid, by the way, $300 million, over $300 million they received. And what it turns out these clinics were doing was they were not treating the children. They were sending it to the Somali terrorist group, Al-Shabaab. In fact, these watchdog groups claim that the number one funder of the Al-Shabaab terrorist group since 2018 was the Minnesota taxpayer. This went on under Tampon Tim's nose, and if you believe him, they had no idea any of it was happening. Now, here's the problem. The Minnesota Department of Health and Human Services tweeted out on 11/29, and I quote, "Tim Walz is 100% responsible for massive fraud in Minnesota. We let him know early on of fraud, hoping for a partnership in stopping fraud, but no, we got the opposite response. He systematically retaliated against whistleblowers using monitoring, threats, repression, and did his best to discredit fraud reports. Instead of partnership, we got the full weight of retaliation by Tim Walz, certain DFL members, and an indifferent mainstream media. It's scary, isolating, and left us wondering who we can turn to. In addition to retaliating against whistleblowers, Tim Walz disempowered the Office of the Legislative Auditor, allowing agencies to disregard their audit findings and guidance. Media and politicians supporting Tim Walz of the DFL agenda attacked whistleblowers who were trying to raise red flags on fraudulent acts." This is his own Department of Health and Human Services. This isn't InfoWars that's saying this. His own Department of Health and Human Services threw him out of the bus. Tim Walz could very well end up in prison. Because here's the thing. If we're going to believe, at best, this guy's grossly negligent. I don't think he's grossly negligent. There was way too many red flags here that he just turned a blind eye to. I don't think he's that stupid. I think he plays an idiot on TV, but I don't think he's actually that stupid. So there's two possibilities here for old Tampon Timmy, for Coach Sandusky. Possibility number one is Tim Walz is an example of being so open-minded your brains fall out. We're seeing this over in England, where you'll have rape gangs going around terrorizing women and children, and the people that get arrested are the people that complain about it on Facebook. So you could either look that Tim Walz was afraid of being called racist here, because this was primarily Somalis that were committing this fraud, so he silenced the whistleblowers, or you can wonder if Tim Walz was taken a little bit off the top. Was Tim Walz indirectly or maybe directly in bed with a Somali radical Islamic terror group? If we're going to believe his own Department of Health and Human Services report, it's one of those two options. I don't think he could be that stupid to let all of this go. I find it hard to believe. I truly do. Because while the state of Minnesota is run primarily by retards, there's no auditor in the world that would look at a jump in a 5-year span from 5 million to over 300 million. We're talking over a 60-time jump. There's no auditor in the world that would see that and not see it as a red flag. So it had to have come to his desk. Someone had to have made Tim Walz aware of this, and he just let it go. My guess here is this is only the tip of the iceberg. We're going to find out more and more and more and more in the coming weeks, and it's going to get worse and worse for Tim Walz. And I don't know anything. I don't have any evidence of this, but my guess is you're going to start to see people like Ilhan Omar get named in this. And this could bring the whole Minnesota cabal down because they really do just have their own crime family in Minnesota of just a gaggle of liberal dipshits over there that run that state. And it's weird because when you talk to people from Minnesota, that's not what you think. They're as Midwestern as anybody else. You're thinking, how the hell do these people rule over you up there? And it's in the cities. They've imported hundreds of thousands of voters, and then they've got a bunch of liberal dipshits in the cities. And that controls the rest of the state. That's really all it is up there in Minnesota. So Donald Trump has gone out on the offensive against Coach Sandusky. And he posts on True Social. We always love Trump's unhinged social media posts for holidays. A very happy Thanksgiving salutation to all of our great American citizens and patriots who have been so nice in allowing our country to be divided, disrupted, carved up, murdered, beaten, mugged, and laughed at, along with certain other foolish countries throughout the world for being politically correct and just plain stupid when it comes to immigration. The official United States foreign population stands at 53 million people from the census, most of which are on welfare from failed nations or from prisons, mental institutions, gangs, or drug cartels. They and their children are supported through massive payments from patriotic American citizens who, because of their beautiful hearts, do not want to openly complain or cause trouble in any way, shape, or form. They put up with what has happened to our country, but it's eating them alive to do so. A migrant earning $30,000 with a green card will get roughly $50,000 in yearly benefits for their family. The real migrant population is much higher. The refugee burden is the leading cause of social dysfunction in America, something that did not exist after World War II. Failed schools, high crime, urban decay, overcrowded hospitals, housing shortages and large deficits, etc. As an example, hundreds of thousands of refugees from Somalia are completely taking over the once great state of Minnesota. Somali gangs are roving the streets looking for prey as our wonderful people stay locked in their apartments and houses, hoping against hope that they will be left alone. The seriously retarded, he said that, not me, the seriously retarded governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, does nothing, either through fear, incompetence, or both, while the worst congressman/woman in our country, Ilhan Omar, always wrapped in her swaddling hijab and who probably came into the USA illegally and that you're not allowed to marry your brother, does nothing but hatefully complain about our country, its constitution, and how badly she is treated when her place of origin is a decadent, backward, and crime-ridden nation, which is essentially not even a country for lack of government, military, police, schools, etc. Even as we have progressed technologically, immigration policy has eroded those gains and living conditions for many. I will permanently pause migration from all third world countries to allow the U.S. system to fully recover, terminate all the millions of Biden illegal admissions, including those signed by Sleepy Joe Biden's auto pen, and remove anyone who is not a net asset to the United States or is incapable of loving our country, end all federal benefits and subsidies to non-citizens of our country, denaturalize migrants who undermine domestic tranquility, and deport any foreign national who is a public charge, security risk, or non-compatible with Western civilization. These goals will be pursued with the aim of achieving a major reduction in illegal and disruptive populations, including those admitted through an unauthorized and illegal auto pen approval process. Only reverse migration can fully cure this situation. Other than that, happy Thanksgiving to all, except those that hate, steal, murder, and destroy everything that America stands for. You won't be here for long. Happy Thanksgiving to you too, Mr. President. Remember, that was a Thanksgiving post. We don't deserve him. We truly don't. So the thing that stuck out to everybody was that he called Tim Walz a retard. And he got asked, hey, you know, do you really mean that you called him that? And here's what he had to say.
Tim Walz, and you called him what many Americans do find an offensive word, retarded. Do you stand by that claim of calling Tim Walz retarded?
Yeah, I think there's something wrong with him. Absolutely, sure.
But you don't think
You have a problem with it? You know what? I think there's something wrong with him. Anybody that would do what he did, anybody that would allow those people into a state and pay billions of dollars out to Somalia. We give billions of dollars to Somalia. It's not even a country because it doesn't function like a country. It's got a name, but it doesn't function like a country. Yeah, there's something wrong with Walz.
Never, ever apologize. Ever. Let that be a lesson to all of you listening to this. Never apologize for what you've said. Own what you've said. Especially when you put it in writing like that. You won't look like a pussy. The number one funder of Al-Shabaab terrorist group was the Minnesota taxpayer. And Tim Walz is probably going to get reelected next year. Listen, if I wanted to destroy this country, do you know what I would do? Is I would import a whole bunch of people who are not only at odds culturally with the indigenous population, I would import a bunch of people who are at odds culturally with the indigenous population and make the indigenous population pay for their lifestyle. People that can't fend for themselves, have nothing in common with people that live here, and make the people who live here, who, by the way, I don't know if you haven't looked around lately, but aren't exactly doing all that hot, make them pay for it. Like it's our problem. Like we don't have enough of our problems. While the guy who's working 2 jobs maxes his credit card out, trying to buy his kids Christmas presents this year, we can go pay for all the for the whole lifestyle of people that just got dropped here because the Democrats wanted a couple more voters. Then I would drop those people here and incentivize them, because we already know they outbreed Westerners. I would incentivize them to have more children. Keep having kids so that the taxpayers can keep funding even more of your lifestyle. Because that does 2 things when you import people like that. It does 2 things. Number one, it totally strains the system, which is the ultimate end game for the Cloward Piven strategy, which is to totally overwhelm all of the institutions in the United States, hijack them, and turn it into a communist hellhole. You can look it up for yourself. They've admitted to wanting to do this in writing, ladies and gentlemen. The second thing it does is it gives people an enemy that's not you. When you're the elites, when you're the ones that are trying to burn the country down so you can rule over the ashes, why wouldn't you want to give someone some other moving target that they can focus on to get their attention off of you? Because that's what it does. Don't get me wrong. We have to stop the mass migration to this country. Absolutely. We have to stop being the world's checking account. Absolutely, we have to stop doing that. But your enemy is not that family of 9 that got dropped in from Mogadishu. You shouldn't have to pay for those people's lifestyle. They shouldn't try to actively replace you with people like that. But your enemy is the people that are bringing people like that into this country. So I totally understand, and I agree with being frustrated with the fact that we got to pay for all these different people from all over the world's lifestyles and we can barely afford to pay for our own. But that's not public enemy number 1. You've got to look deeper. The rage cannot stop at the people that are here eating the benefits up. The rage has to be at the people that brought them here. Tim Walz went and defended it. Of course, because you can never admit when you've done something wrong. That's why I know this wasn't a mistake. Because this is such a scandal here that it's one of those things that if you fucked up, you have to go out and be a man and admit that you fucked up. You have to go out and go, look, we dropped the ball. I didn't listen to my auditors. I was more concerned with not wanting to hurt anybody's feelings and playing PC. I was gunning for a VP nominee. I wanted a future in national politics. I fucked up. This is my fault. You have to go out and own this. You can't just sweep this under the rug because this isn't going away. The fact that he hasn't done that, the fact that he's tried to divert, to distract, to blame other people, to change the subject, to move the goalposts, tells me there might be a little bit more to Coach Sandusky's involvement. We'll watch one of these clips here.
Aren't people going to abuse the program? How disrespectful to people to assume that all Minnesotans are scamming. That's what I hear from them all the time. I trust Minnesotans. I believe in Minnesotans. I believe they know. You're not going to get rich, and it's not your full salary. You're not going to scam and take time off. But this is complicated. This was a very good question.
That was Tim Walz just recently being asked if he was concerned that people would abuse some new expansions to Medicaid and Medicare that his state passed. It's disrespectful. No, Tim, it's not disrespectful to assume that because it already happened. This is like if you caught your wife or your husband cheating on you and you make up and you stay together and couple months go by and everything's fine, and then they start acting shady again. They're staying out late, they're working late, whatever. You got some weird charges on the credit card, just kind of goofy demeanor, right? And you ask them, hey, what's going on? And they go, this is disrespectful for you to even assume that. You know, maybe if you hadn't been caught red-handed doing the exact thing that we're accusing you of doing a couple of months ago, you might be able to get away with that argument. But no, now you have to explain yourself. Now, the problem is, and this is going to be in the back of Minnesota voters' minds every time they go to the polls over the next couple of years, whenever they say, hey, we want to expand this social program, or we want to allocate money to do that, they're going to be thinking, is this money actually going to get spent on this? Or is this going to be another fraud situation? Is this going to be another terrorist financing situation? And you're going to see a lot of these projects that might be proposed by people with good intentions that could actually help people get shot down or have to have a whole hell of a lot more of a fight if they want any chance at passing because of the way they have trampled on the voters' trust here. Here's another video of Walz talking about people and their responses to Somalis. Check this out.
Dozens of people of East African descent have been charged, convicted, and sentenced for stealing more than $1 billion in taxpayer money from government programs during COVID. As you know, Governor, that is more than Minnesota spends each year to run its Department of Corrections. So I want to give you a chance to respond to this. Do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state?
Well, certainly I take responsibility for putting people in jail. Governors don't get to just talk theoretically. We have to solve problems. And
they don't get to talk no, but they do. You see how quickly he's diverting? I'll play the rest of it in a second. Do you see how quickly he's diverting? He takes responsibility for putting people in jail. What the fuck does that even mean, Coach Sandusky? What are you even talking about? No, governors, yeah, correct. Governors put people in positions, and when those people conduct audits that say, hey, there's fraud going on, and the governor ignores it, then it becomes the governor's problem. I hope I helped you there. So if you're a CEO of a company, you're not going to be able to do every job, right? But if somebody comes to you and says, hey, this employee is embezzling, and you just ignore it, guess what? Now it falls on your shoulders because someone made you aware of the embezzlement and you did nothing to stop it.
I will note, it's not just Somalis. Minnesota is a generous state. Minnesota's
Yeah, that's great. It's not just Somalis that are fucking us over. That's what a message, Tim. It goes way deeper than that. You haven't even seen the cusp of it yet.
prosperous states, a well-run state. We're AAA bond rated, but that attracts criminals. Those people are going to jail. We're doing everything we can, but to demonize an entire community on the actions of a few, it's lazy.
No, do you know what's lazy, Tim? Do you know what's lazy? Seeing a program that at one point had $5 million a year allocated to it jump up to $300 million and doing nothing about it. That's what's lazy, Tim. Not even supposedly bothering to check if we ask you. That's what's lazy, Coach Sandusky. And then we find out the Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison is allegedly on tape pledging to help Somali fraudsters if they donate money to his campaign. The whole state is corrupt to the core. You had a judge in Minneapolis last week. A guy got convicted for hundreds of thousands of dollars of welfare fraud. A Somali did in Minneapolis. The jury of his peers unanimously finds him guilty. The judge, who, by the way, before she was a judge, did customer service at a credit union and then got appointed to be a judge by Tim Walz. She got her law degree, decided she didn't want to do law, and then became a customer service representative at a fucking bank. And Tim Walz said, yeah, she'll make a great judge. What's going on up there? She comes in and she reverses the jury's decision, declares him innocent. Smoking gun evidence, if you ask the jury. She comes in and reverses the jury's decision. The whole state is corrupt to the core. Folks, we're at a point where we have to start asking, is Minnesota a rogue state? Everyone talks all this shit about Newsom and New York City and all this stuff. Minnesota is rotted to the core. The communists have infiltrated every institution imaginable up there. One might argue, given the way the courts are now rigged, given the way the welfare system's rigged, given the way the auditors and the checks and balances are either totally kneecapped or also rigged, one might argue that it's not possible to get a free and fair election in the state of Minnesota to unseat these people. So one must ask, what's the next solution? And that solution is one nobody wants to talk about, which is President Trump declares Minnesota to be a rogue state, and sends the National Guard in to drag Tampon Tim Walz out of his office, kicking and screaming, off to prison. That's the road nobody, including myself, wants to go down. But I think our options are very limited at this point. I don't know what else you do. When I see stories like twice convicted rapist Abdimahat Bilay Muhammad, who served no jail time for either rape, including one on a minor victim, being arrested again for kidnapping a woman, holding her hostage for days, and repeatedly raping her last week in Minnesota. We hear about the insanity going on in England, which we'll talk about later on. That's not across the pond anymore, ladies and gentlemen. It's going on right here in your backyard. I can leave my house right now and be to Minnesota before dinner time. It's not that far away. So Trump rolled out a new policy to respond to this because it's like I said, your enemy is not the person from Somalia. The problem is they are a symptom of the problem, and the symptoms have to be treated before we can get to the root cause of it. So here's Trump's new policy they issued at the memorandum. Effective immediately, this memorandum directs U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services personnel to place a hold on all forms I-589, application for asylum and for withholding of removal, regardless of the alien's country of nationality, pending a comprehensive review. Place a hold on pending benefit requests for aliens in countries listed in presidential proclamation, blah, blah, blah. Conduct a comprehensive re-review of approved benefit requests for aliens from countries listed who entered the United States on or after January 20th, 2021. So basically, if you came to this country over the last 4 years and you are not a citizen, you did not legally become a citizen, you are up for deportation. We might get rid of you. And honestly, normally I wouldn't be in favor of such strong actions like that. I don't see another solution right now. I don't see another solution right now. I think we have to do a hard reset on immigration in this country. I think honestly, if I were king for a day, I deport everyone who's not a citizen that came here over the last 4 years, and then I shut down immigration from every country for a year. I don't care if it's Somalia or Canada. You don't come here for a year. We shut it down. And we sit back and we lick our wounds and we figure this out. And then we come up with a new policy in the meantime that incentivizes the right people to come here. Now, before you tear my head off, the right people can be black, they can be white, a lot of them are Asian. Hispanic, it doesn't matter. But we have to incentivize, Trump is 100% correct, people coming to this country that are going to contribute to it. And when I say contribute, I want to be very clear what I mean by that. I don't mean people who are just going to come here and undercut Americans for jobs that Americans actually want on H-1B visas and screw people over. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about I want medical students. I want entrepreneurs. I want folks like that coming over here. People that are going to contribute to the community, right? That's what we're looking for here. Trump's 100% right. We can't afford welfare for our own people in this country. We're going broke just paying for that. We can't continue to just dish out handouts to anybody who moves here from Timbuktu that wants one. I'm sorry, that might sound harsh, but at some point the buck has to stop. The last couple administrations, Trump included in 2017, kicked this can down the road long enough. Something has to give. People cannot continue to prop this up. We have to stop it. And I'm glad they're doing it. And here's another interview from Trump when he was asked about Somalia. Check this out.
And they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too. I can say it about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. You know, our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain, and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Now, that may have sounded like your uncle at Thanksgiving. But what that also sounded like to me was a man who is just done. He's just fed up. He's had enough. You can tell by the tone of his voice. I mean, Trump's never been one to mince words. But that's about as unfiltered and raw of Trump as you're ever going to see. That's a guy who's done. That's a guy who is finally realized, almost a year into his presidency, one of the chief reasons he got elected. It wasn't just, when we were upset about immigration, it wasn't just the southern border. It was mass migration. It was replacement of Western values. And when we talk about replacement, they hit you with, oh, you're a Nazi, that's a white supremacist conspiracy theory. It's not. I don't give a fuck what color you are. I don't. My wife is not white. My children will not be white. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Western values. Western Judeo-Christian values that are being eroded every day. And then the people that are upset about it are being gaslit. They're being gaslit by the people that are bringing these folks in here that are saying, if you're upset about this, that's because it's a problem with you, not with them. Not with them coming from a country that's objectively bad and demanding you alter your life so that they can feel more at home like they're back in the shithole they came from. The problem is with you. And you're a racist if you're upset about that. You're a Nazi, a xenophobe, a whatever if you disagree with that. The problem is you. That's why people are so pissed off. And Trump finally realized it. Trump is finally figuring out the problem was not just the southern border. The problem was mass migration, people that we're letting in legally. The problem is that we didn't take a step back and take an inventory and say maybe we should put a cap on how many people come here, specifically those that don't mesh with our culture very well. There is nothing wrong with wanting to preserve your culture. There's not. Notice how these people that call you a Nazi and a racist and all these things because you don't want to see your culture eroded don't feel that way about the Somalis. They don't feel that way about the Muslims coming here. You have to give your culture up, but they don't have to give theirs up. Why? Why do you, the person who lives here, have to give your culture up? And you're a Nazi if you have a problem with it, but they're not Nazis for demanding that you cave to their culture, that fucked their country up in the first place. Have you ever thought about that? It's because you're not actually a racist. It's not about racism or xenophobia or any of that. It's about getting you to bend the knee. It's about getting you to fall in line. It is about the controlled demolition of this country. And you're watching it in real time. And Trump has finally started to figure it out. Tommy Robinson is a British activist. And he said, long time ago, and he's repeated it over and over again, you guys think you got it bad with your southern border. Wait until the Islamic migration kicks into full gear over here like it has in England. You'll be begging for the South Americans back. And he's not wrong. Where would you rather live? The heart of Minneapolis or the heart of El Paso? I've been both, man. It ain't no question to me. Let's go to the next segment here. That was a long one. I'm not sorry. It needed to be said. We had a shooting. Oh, that's not how that's supposed to look. We had a shooting out in Washington, D.C. So as we all know, the National Guard is there patrolling the street. You can have whatever opinion you want on that. And you got two National Guard members that were on patrol, and an individual who came from Washington State pulls up and shoots both of them, kills one of them. They had to stop the guy by stabbing him with a pocket knife, running at him and stabbing him with a pocket knife because they were not allowed to carry firearms. So as it turns out, this guy was an Afghani migrant, of course, who was on an expired visa, wasn't even supposed to be here, let in under the Biden administration. And they're trying to pin this on the current administration because somebody in Trump's immigration office decided that they would give this guy basically a moratorium. They'd give him an opportunity to write his visa before they deported him. And you know what? If I'm Trump, I wouldn't try to deflect that. I wouldn't try to argue it. I would say, you know what? Great point. No more exceptions. Everyone's gone. We're not going to make exceptions for expired visas. If it's one day over, we're coming to your house and we're deporting you. Thank you for reminding me of that. That's a great idea. That's what, I mean, the gloves have to be off, guys. Because here's the thing. Shortly after this shooting happened, this is what happened in the United States. After we found out this guy was a radical Islamist from Afghanistan, this is what happened in the United States. This is outside of City Hall in Philadelphia. With Palestinian flags, burning American flags in the street outside of City Hall. Here's Dearborn, Michigan. That says, by the way, until we turn the White House into a Shiite Islamic center, we will all continue to shout, "Death to America." Dearborn, Michigan. Not Somalia, not Afghanistan, not the United Kingdom, not even Canada. Dearborn, Michigan, in your backyard. That is your new reality. That was the response to a radical Islamist shooting 2 U.S. troops from the radical Muslim community here in the United States. That was not the Ayatollah of Iran celebrating it. Those were your quote-unquote fellow Americans. Every last one that is not a citizen has to go. It is a national security threat. I understand not all Muslims are radical. I get it. But the problem is the same thing I tell you about the leftists is, yes, your cousin, your aunt, your coworker, your sister-in-law, your dentist that happens to be to the left of you may not want to pick up a gun and shoot you, but they would all stand idly by while somebody else did it. And they would convince themselves that you deserved it because of your political views. A lot of the quote-unquote moderate Muslims that come here from third world countries are the same way. They're not out in the streets chanting death to America, but they sure as shit ain't speaking up about the people who are. There's your problem. The silent majority is way too silent. Because if Muslims are going to use this shooting as an excuse to ramp up the intensity of their soft crusade of the West, the pushback's going to get even stronger. The current administration is going to ban all migration from Muslim countries, and they will deport every non-citizen who practices that religion or comes from one of those countries. And it's about damn time. We're done playing. We're done playing. Here's the thing, guys. There's a lot of, we call them the jellyfish Christians on this show. And when I say that, I'm not talking about any particular sect, right? I'm Catholic. I'm an adult convert. And there's a lot of spineless Christians and people with some of the biggest balls you'll ever see in just about every church in this country. You'll find both extremes and a bunch of people in the middle. So I'm not attacking any one sect of Christianity. But a lot of you jellyfish Christians that think we can just sit here and sing Kumbaya fucking Ya with people whose doctrine flat out says we either have to be killed, enslaved, or converted are dead wrong. You guys got to get comfortable with the fact that whether we like it or not, one side has to win. Eventually, someone has to win. If someone, it's not a matter of, well, maybe, no, there's no negotiation. We have let the radical Islamists into this country. There is no negotiation. We have to send them back to where they came from. Not violently, but we have to send them back. We cannot sit here and reason with lunatics. They have to go back. One side has to win whether you like it or not. Because the other side does not allow its people to let up. They don't get to stop until they win. So we might as well win first. That's all I'm saying. Have you looked at the Islamic countries? They're not exactly doing too hot. I would prefer to not live in a country where my wife has to cover her face to go to the grocery store. I would prefer to not live in a country where I get shot in the back of the head because I taught my daughter how to read. Maybe you would. Maybe you're okay with it as long as you don't step on any toes. Well, we have to love our neighbors. Jesus said, love thy neighbor. Blah, blah. Shut up. Shut up. Pussy. Jesus didn't tell you to be a doormat for the rest of the fucking world, bro. Do you have no backbone? Could you imagine you get to the gates of heaven and St. Peter's sitting there and he's like, all right, let's see, what did you do? Oh, you allowed your country to get overrun by Islamic extremists where thousands of women were raped and people were beheaded and got thrown off of buildings. Where you had grooming gangs roving the streets And the police were too terrified to do anything or in on it themselves. You allowed that to happen because you told all your fellow Christians just to settle down and learn to accept another culture. Where do you think you're going to go when you have to answer for the shit you've done here? Cultural differences are food and music and clothing. I'm all for it. I'm all for honoring your culture. We go to Santa Lucia every year for my Italian heritage. We go to the powwows for Mia's native heritage. We Taco Bell for her Mexican heritage. I'm all for honoring where you came from. I have no problem with that. In fact, I support it. I think you should be proud of your roots and you should know where you came from. However, those things are culture, the dances and the garbs and the foods and the music. Throwing gays off roofs ain't culture. Stoning women because they had sex outside of marriage ain't culture. By the way, you talk to a lot of conservative Christians here, they're probably not huge fans of premarital sex and gays. But they also don't think they should be stoned and thrown off of buildings. That's the big difference. That's how you can tell if one side, or that's how you can tell if one is compatible with a civilized society or not. You may talk to some crazy, think about the craziest Christians in this country right now. The Westboro Baptist Church. What do? What do? They stand outside of funerals and big events with signs. They might yell something at you, but they sit there and they antagonize people. Those are the most extreme Christians in the country. In fact, they've been called the Christian Taliban. Now compare them to the actual Taliban, who throws people off buildings, who behead people, who engage in child rape. There's no comparison. The worst we have to offer would be considered a moderate over there. The Westboro Baptist Church will sit there with their God hates fag sign, but they're not throwing gays off of roofs. Yeah, they're dickheads. So what? There's a lot of dickheads. Get over it. You can be a dickhead as long as you don't try to force it on me. That's the big difference. Okay, let's go to our next one. Man, they got me fired up today. This creatine and coffee got me fired up. Tennessee. Oh, thank God, Tennessee. Oh, my goodness. Afton Bain, the Democrat running in the special election for the House in Tennessee, was defeated. Now, it's a deep red, heavy Trump district, but listen, people are going to try to sell you that this is some big sign. Or here's the thing. It's an off-election year. Democrats always do better in off-election years because they tend to be more engaged, because Republican voters have things like, jobs and families and hobbies, whereas this is these people's entire life. It's their religion, whatever. So Democrats typically perform well in off-election years unless there's some massive red wave coming. So what you'll see is Democrat donors will pour and Republicans try to do this too during special elections, but they'll pour a bunch of money into races to try to flip a seat they couldn't normally get or make it look a lot closer, even though in a year when the normal election cycle comes up, they're going to get dog walked. They try to sneak up on people because a lot of people aren't aware that there's a special election in their district, which is why you should pay attention to those important things. So Afton Bain was Ben Bain. I don't fucking care because this lady's an afterthought now, so I don't really care how to pronounce her name. But she lost by like 5 to 7 points, and the Democrats are all celebrating because Trump won it by over 20. Now, Olivia Giuliana, the jumbo-sized Democrat activist, tweeted this picture out saying that the election results almost gave her an asthma attack. So she had to put her breathing machine on. Was it the election, honey, or was it, the fact that you had to get up to walk from the couch to the fridge and back? I don't know. Remains to be seen. I love how this is what they celebrate. These are the people that the Democrats are proud to put out front. Like, is that what you want to be? You want to be the party of moral victories that celebrates losing by 7 points? You want to be the party of just poor health, physical and mental, that you're going to trot fat slobs like that out? Listen, if you're that fat, if you are that big, there's a mental health element to it too. There is. Because no one who's happy with themselves, no one who truly loves themselves gets this big. Nobody who loves themselves gets that fat. I'm sorry, it doesn't happen. That's not how this works. So I'm trying to do 2 jobs. I'm wearing 2 hats here. Mia's not here, so I got to do both. So Afton Bain was quite possibly one of the most batshit unhinged candidates we've ever seen. Here's what she had to say about prayer. Prayer, yes.
And I think, especially as someone who is more secular, I have a hard time when religion is at the core.
Hold on, that's her. Doesn't she look nice? She looks like a real friendly, approachable gal. I'll go back a second.
I have a hard time when religion is at the core of everything we do in the legislature. And so, for example, on the House floor, we say a prayer every session. Some committees open up with prayer. We also stand.
She's real uncomfortable about prayer. These are the people that a couple of weeks ago were arguing that you were a xenophobe and a racist if you had a problem with Islamic prayer calls 5 times a day in Dearborn and Minneapolis. But she's real uncomfortable about the legislature saying a voluntary prayer before they get started.
For the pledge. And there are also prayer groups in the legislature that meet routinely.
Oh, the horror. People, consenting adults doing things in their free time. The horror. Make it stop.
There are Christian pastors that have a lot of say and proximity to power in the legislature.
Yeah, it's crazy. Christian pastors that have a lot of say in proximity to the legislature. It's almost like the people that are putting them in power are also Christians themselves, and they would like to have a say. Do you notice that? Do you notice how it's not a problem when Somalis elect Ilhan Omar in droves every election? That's not a problem when they elect Muslim representatives or Somalian representatives or whatever, because the Somali people just want to have a say in the way their government's run. But when Christians do it, now it's a problem. Now we're hijacking the legislature for our religious dogma and we're Nazis. You ever notice that? Isn't it weird the double standard these people have set? By the way, if someone like her went to a Muslim country, they would hang her in about an hour. We don't like that. But that's what they would do. Here's another comment she had to make. Here's another comment she had to make about the patriarch, whatever these bullshit bumper sticker talking points are. Here you go.
My therapist always asks me to transcribe my dreams when they happen. And the recurring dream.
Pause right there. Therapist. We all know how I feel about therapy. Dare I say something a little bold here? Dare I say that if you require the assistance of a therapist to function, not, hey, I had to go because I had some PTSD, so I went and took care of it and now I'm done. If you require the assistance of a therapist to function as an adult, you should not be in a position where you can vote to send my children to war. I don't think that's a big ask on my part.
I've had is standing up in a cafeteria full of women. I don't know why I was there or whatever, and saying, I don't want children, I want power. And just
that's who I want. I want power. I love how she just lays it all out. I want power. I don't want children. I want power. She doesn't even hide it. Not, I want success. I want to be my own woman. I want to be independent. I want power. That's what this nutcase is dreaming about. Oh, we dodged a bullet. Oh my God.
Screaming it at the top of my lungs. And for someone who grew up with my mother telling me never have kids because you'll have to give up a lot. You'll have to sacrifice professionally, which is what she was saying.
Oh no, professionally. So it's been generations of poison. Isn't that what every kid wants to hear from their mother, is never have kids because it's going to ruin your life? I don't know what I would have done. I mean, this is why this woman's so fucked up. This is generational trauma here. This is childhood trauma here. If your own mother looks you in the eye as a child and says never have children, how do you think the kid's going to respond to that? Don't have kids because mommy can't make PowerPoints for $55,000 a year now. Because you fucked it up, you little cunt. I mean, that what an evil thing to say to your child. No wonder this bitch is the Wicked Witch of Tennessee. Her mother was a psychopath. Your own mother told her never have children. She can think that. You can't say it. This is how liberal women are born. From parents that despise them. No one who loves their children. No one who loves their children raises a child that grows up to be this much of a spiteful, evil demon.
And where I am now with seeing the consequences.
Yeah, you're doing great. You're 37, no husband, no kids, no career to show for it, in therapy. And you're celebrating an 8-point loss in a congressional race, which, by the way, is the closest you will ever come to the power you desire oh so much.
And the ramifications of women having kids and being in the political field and what they're able to achieve, because we don't offer, it's like the political field hasn't met the challenge of working moms. They really haven't. But also the deeply patriarchal structures that these women are involved with because they've chosen marriage and they've chosen to raise children. And I think in the South, it's incredible.
See, there's the big takeaway right there. Chosen. They've chosen marriage and they've chosen to raise children. Do you notice that? These crazy antinatalist feminist women always have that tell, because they'll try to package it as if they just want a choice. They just don't want women to be pressured into starting families and getting married and raising kids and all that. They just want people to have the choice. They'll try to sell it to you like that they don't care. You do what makes you happy. And then they will actively argue against the opposite of their lifestyle. Because it's not actually about choice. It's only about choice if you choose what they want you to choose. Because these are anti-human demons at the core. They're either anti-human demons, which I think she is, or in a lot of cases, I think you have women that regret their choice to not get married and regret their choice to not have children. And when they come out and they argue about it so publicly, like we've showed that Hannah Cox girl doing, to them, it's not about convincing you. They're trying to convince themselves because they're about 30 seconds away from swallowing a gun because of the bad choices they've made. And they're actually out trying to argue with themselves that, no, you did the right thing. You were the boss, babe. Okay, you rose to middle management. Okay, you left a legacy. A legacy. That was your legacy, was showing up in the pantsuits and making PowerPoints and bitching at people in a corporate setting. That's your legacy. Where the Christmas holiday you can't, not Christmas, you can't call it Christmas. The holiday games you set up at your office full of people that only interact with you because they're paid to do it, because that's the only way anyone's ever going to interact with you. That's your legacy, is making a bunch of people stop doing their jobs so they can play a stupid party game that's typically relegated to children's birthday parties that you might as well be forcing them to play at gunpoint. That's your legacy. Afton Bain. That's what you will leave behind. People who interact with you because they were paid to do it. And even then, some of them are going to call in sick. People that go to the happy hour with you. The corporate happy hour The non-mandatory team building happy hour. By the way, it's mandatory if you want to raise next year. We're going to hold it again. You're sober, don't care. Sit in that bar. Because it's not about team building. It's about building her self-esteem up. She's got to convince herself, Afton Bain does, that these people actually want to spend time around her. And yeah, they spend time around her at work when she's hogging the coffee machine, because that's all she does, is send out an email, make coffee, and argue with people on Facebook all day. But she needs people to hang out with her off the clock, so she's going to make you go there. Do you see? This is why, because they always say, the liberals will always use this excuse, and they don't get it, is they say men won't vote for female politicians. Men don't want women to lead. Well, if you look around, there's quite a few women in politics. There's quite a few women that have risen to not the top, but close to the top of politics. A lot of them. The average male voter, and a lot of female voters, by the way, their problem is not with women. Their problem is with women like you. And you guys don't understand that. Think about the average voter. The average voter is a guy working a 9-to-5 job, making a decent living, just trying to pay for his family. That guy lives his entire existence in fear of one person. It's not his wife. It's not the president. It's not a potential home invader that's going to kick his door in and rob him. That guy, the person he fears more than anyone, is not a member of Al-Qaeda. It's not a gang member. It's not a schizophrenic homeless man that's going to set him on fire on the subway. The person he fears more than anyone is the HR lady at his job. Because she does nothing all day but sit around and look for reasons to come after him or her. That's who they're terrified of. That's what you guys don't get. You don't appeal to the average voter because you remind the average voter of the person in their life they fear the most. They put up with HR lady shit from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and God forbid they don't work weekends. Well, the HR lady doesn't. But they live in constant fear of her that she found some Facebook post from 6 years ago because she's digging through their social media, not like she's got anything better to do. Or she heard that you made a joke to somebody at the water cooler or whatever. They live in fear of that woman every day at their job. They don't want to go home and watch her speak from the Oval Office on the news at night. They are not rejecting women. They're rejecting HR ladies. Kamala Harris, HR lady. Hillary Clinton, HR lady. Afton Bain, the final boss of HR ladies. Nobody wants an HR lady. That's what this is about. I would happily vote for Tulsi Gabbard. There was a woman down in Texas that was a congresswoman, Mayara Flores. I would happily vote for her. There's a lot of women that do great things in politics. I voted for Deb Fischer for Senate. There's a lot of women that do great things in politics. It's nothing. I know we joke about the 19th Amendment or whatever. It's not about that. It's not about that at all. We just don't like being lectured. I don't want to be lectured. And that woman lectures people 5 times a day. Let's keep her off Capitol Hill. I mean, genuinely. Because that's the thing. I'd prefer AOC to somebody like that. AOC's an idiot. Jasmine Crockett's an idiot. But they're not HR ladies. Those are your cousin that, I gotta be careful here. those are your cousins or your sister-in-law or whatever. That, yeah, maybe she went to college and fucked off because college isn't really that hard and got a degree with like a C+. And she works some bullshit job, but she's not an HR lady. She might be like a bartender or something. Life just never really panned out for her. But my God, when you get together at family events or you look at their social media, they've got opinions on everything, and it is consistently the dumbest take you will ever see. That's AOC. But AOC does not give off the vibe. AOC and Crockett both give off the vibe of somebody in a social setting. Politics aside, nobody knows how anybody feels about political views. Corporate setting, you could have fun with. Someone you could actually have a conversation with and it'd be a good time. AOC and Crockett both. Give me that vibe. If we all worked in some boring cubicle gray office, I could talk to both of those two if nobody knew about anybody's politics and it would be fine. I would never speak to Afton Bain. In fact, myself, AOC, and Crockett would all three hate that woman. Guarantee it. Okay, let's go to the next one here. I'm ranting today. Support for same-sex marriage in the United States has fallen to 54%. That is over a 20-year low. What's going on, gays? What's happening? I mean, it couldn't be the pride parades where you guys walk around in thongs and stick your junk in front of kids, right? And by the way, that's a minority of gays. Most gays don't want nothing to do. Most gays will look at guys like that and call them fags. Truly. A lot of them will. I know some of them. So my frustration here is not with gays. And I think a lot of people that took this survey, the 46%, I don't think their frustration is with the gay couple down the street from them. The frustration is with the propaganda here. The frustration is with the blowback. I shouldn't use that word when we're talking about gays, huh? Think about where this country was in 2015 when the Supreme Court struck down the ban on gay marriage. Think about what this country's relationship with gay people was like. It was becoming more socially accepted. That was right around the time you had shows like Modern Family coming out. And it wasn't being forced down everyone's throat, but at the same time, the acknowledgement was like, yeah, gay people, it is what it is. You know, nobody really cared. Yet support hovered and stayed for a long time at about 65 to 75%, depending on the poll, for same-sex marriage in the United States. The problem is, as we found out, the left in this country can never just take a win. They can never take a win. They're that guy that sits down at the blackjack table, hits blackjack on his first hand, then wins 4 more in a row, and can't just walk the fuck away from the table. He plays until his money's gone. The free drinks start flowing. You know, we've all been there. But they do the political version of that.
Politically. They
can't say same-sex marriage, equal rights. Yeah, who gives a shit if 2 guys get married? Just let them have it. Cool. And then move on to the next issue. If you got to double, triple, and quadruple down until it reaches the point of insanity to where people start taking a long, hard look at the thing that they initially agreed with and going, no, I don't know if I like that anymore. Because here's what happened. Was, like I said, back when Obergefell got passed in the Supreme Court, it's 65 to 75% of people supported gay marriage in the United States. People are like, yeah, 2 consenting adults who, don't do it out in front of me. Who cares? And then what happened after that? The pride parades got more absurd. And more importantly, they got more public. Pride wasn't just the march they had in June. Pride was a whole lifestyle. It infiltrated its way into classrooms, into media, into children's shows specifically. That's when it became a problem. Then after that, liberals told everyone that, because people started getting a little uncomfortable with the pride stuff, getting shoved down everyone's throat. The big, long victory lap. And then after that, liberals told everyone, hey, we're going to add this new shit to it, this transgender stuff, and you better fucking be okay with that too. And people started going, hold on, no, why is this a package deal all of a sudden? And even a lot of gays started going, why is this a package deal? What are you talking about, this transgender stuff? Oh, yeah. You better be okay with men and women's locker rooms. You better be okay with your daughter having to share a bathroom with a guy who's built like Vin Diesel in a wig. You better be okay with that. And a lot of people were like, I'm not okay with that. But people got bullied into silence. And then they crossed the one line you can't cross, which is people's kids. You can fuck with people's employers. You can fuck with people's homes. You can fuck with a lot of shit. You cannot fuck with people's kids. It was no longer enough to just say, hey, it's okay if two dudes want to get married, two chicks want to, two lesbians want to beat the hell out of each other. Who cares? It's in the privacy of their own home. It was no longer enough. It wasn't enough to maybe not be a fan of the risque pride parades, but to let it slide. It was no longer enough to not want to put up a fight about women's restrooms and locker rooms. Because you notice they kind of won that one too. No, you had to be willing to send your kid to sit down with a psychopath teacher that was going to convince them that they were born in the wrong body and they should start sex change surgery and hormones at 12 years old. And that's where they crossed the line. And what happens when you meet people with a firestorm like that is they fight fire with more fire. And they said, you know what? Fuck you. Fine. You want to pull this shit? Cool. Here's what I'll do. You really want to pull this shit? I'm against all of it now. If this is a package deal, the deal's rejected. The left did this. And I'm conservative on a lot of issues, but I'm more independent than a lot of people think I am. I don't have a problem with gay marriage being legal in this country. I don't necessarily agree on adoption, but gay marriage I don't have a problem with. But I can see, because I pay attention to politics and I can see how trends go, I can see how this happened. I'm able to separate the issues. A lot of people aren't. And do you know why a lot of people aren't? Because the left overplayed their hand. The left told people that they couldn't separate the issues. You can't do it. They are a package deal. The left are the ones to blame for this. Gays, don't look at me. Don't look at the right. The liberals are the ones that told people, Mr. Joe Smith down the street, they told him that if he wasn't okay with this 10-year-old daughter starting hormones to become a boy, that meant he was also homophobic. And do you know what Joe Smith said? He didn't cave. He went, guess I'm a fucking homophobe then. They're the ones that did this to you, not us. Remember that. If laws start changing, if court cases start changing in this country, it wasn't us that took it away from you. We were willing to separate the issues. The left was not. The left told people, you either get all of it or nothing. And people said nothing. The juice ain't worth the squeeze. If you're going to involve my kids in this transgender death cult, fuck you. I don't want any of it. We're going back to the way things used to be. This is on the left. They did this to you, not us. Remember that. Next one. Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary. A little bit of controversy because of this interview. Go ahead, check it out.
Something I didn't know, in 2019, 400% increase of in-flight outbursts by passengers. 2021, 1 in 5 flight attendants faced physical incidents. You want to change that?
Yeah, so Donald Trump talks about the golden age of transportation, the golden age of America. But the golden age in transportation truly begins with you, the traveler, right? And so if you think, you just watch social media, you have brawls at the baggage claim. You have passengers berating gate agents. We have unruly passengers on airplanes. People dress up like they're going to bed when they fly. I see people getting on airplanes and they're having a hard time taking their luggage and getting in the oversized or the above bin. Help people out, be nice, be courteous. And so we want to push people as we come into a really busy travel season. Help people out, be in a good mood, dress up, bring civility back to travel. And I think everyone's experience is going to be that much better.
So unruly passenger events on airlines have doubled since 2019. I didn't know that. Doubled. I have always wanted to see an airport meltdown, and I'm yet to see one. I mean, what do I have to do? I've always wanted to see some overweight woman lose her shit on a flight attendant. I don't know what it is about airports. I think it's that people take medication to calm themselves down and they take too much and they wig out. I don't know. I've always wanted to see it. I never have. I promise you, you all will see it. If I do, I will record it and play it here. I've never seen an airport meltdown. I've gotten a pretty strong buzz at the airport bar, but I've never seen a meltdown. I don't get it. So I used to be terrified of flying when I was young. I like it now because I very have to be working on something. I have to feel like I'm being productive. On a plane, I can't. I have to sit there. I like that. I enjoy the solitude of having the rare moments I get where I have nothing to do. More importantly, where nothing is expected of me. Now, where he's getting a lot of flack here is the comment he made about people not wearing pajamas on the flights. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but he's 100% right. 100% right. I'm not talking about people that wear like a comfortable pair of shorts or sweatpants. I'm talking about the pajama pants crew. Why stop at planes? Stop wearing your pajamas to Walmart. Stop wearing them to the gas station. Stop wearing them to the grocery store, to the mall. Stop wearing your pajamas outside of the house, you disgusting, smelly, fat piece of shit. Stop doing it. I don't care what your situation is. Oh, I'm broke. I don't have the time to deal with this. If I want to be comfortable in public, I'll be... No, you know why you're broke? Because you wear Cookie Monster pajama pants to the fucking grocery store. You're broke because you can't be bothered to put on something half decent. I'm not asking you to put on a suit. Sweatpants are fine. Basketball shorts are fine. Pajama pants all of those things are equally, if not more comfortable than pajama pants, by the way. Pajama pants send a specific message when people see you wearing them, which is that I don't give a damn. I don't care. Look, there have been times I've had to run out and I do not feel like doing anything. I'll throw on a hoodie, some shorts, and roll with it, right? Nobody pays any attention to me. I don't stick out. If I put pajama pants on, I would. And everyone would think, wow, there's a guy who doesn't give two shits. And people who don't give two shits, as far as their appearance is concerned, tend to not give two shits as far as anything else is concerned. So you've got all these other problems that are stressing you out, and that's why you need to feel comfortable. Look no further than the whatever that stain is on those Cookie Monster pajama pants. That's why you're a loser. You can't even be bothered Not even to dress nice. You can't be bothered to dress like a guy who just got done doing yard work. I don't think I own a pair of pajama pants. Why would I? Why am I going to spend extra money on pajama? I can sleep in basketball shorts. Why would I buy pajamas? Who the fuck buys pajamas? What kind of psycho spends money on clothes that you can only wear in one room of your home? Why in the fuck would anyone do that? You'd have to be an idiot. But stop wearing them on the flights. I don't think that's a big ask. Stop wearing them anywhere but your bedroom. I'm with Sean Duffy on this one. I am. You don't got to dress like it's the Met Gala. But you can't dress like you're giving plasma. Next one. Tucker Carlson and Piers Morgan went at it over free speech in the United Kingdom. Here's the interview without context, and I'll tell you where it came from after this.
Would you say the word faggot on camera?
No.
Why?
Because
you don't want to get arrested, do you?
Doesn't want to be arrested.
Oh, because it's so harmful to people?
No.
Is it like gay bashing? What's wrong with that?
No, would you use that word?
Faggot?
Yeah.
I just did.
Yeah, but would you
faggot,
use
faggot?
Okay, but why?
And I'm using it because you're not allowed to, because you're...
I'm allowed to.
Go ahead.
I don't want to.
Say, I love gay people. Faggot.
I'm allowed to. I just choose not to.
So the reason Tucker was trying to pressure Piers into using the word faggot is because he's trying to prove a point. Because Piers is claiming they have free speech in England. They don't. They don't. You had a woman just recently in the United Kingdom who got raped, went to the hospital, reported it, the rape kit, the whole 9 yards. And after that, getting raped is a traumatic experience, but I don't think a lot of people realize the aftermath of being raped is a second traumatic experience. You've got these invasive not that I've ever been raped, but I know people that have. You've got these doctors doing these invasive procedures. You've got police officers asking you a bunch of questions, almost kind of like they don't believe you. It's not a good time from what I've been told. So she does the rape kit. She does all this stuff. She goes home. And it was a terrible day. So she's had a bunch of frustrations. She decides she's going to vent to her group chat where she calls the guy who raped her a faggot. Someone in the group chat was offended by the use of a homophobic slur, even though it wasn't directed at a gay person. Even if it was, it shouldn't be prison time. And they reported her to the local police. So the local police show up a mere hours after this woman was just sexually assaulted and put through the ringer in the aftermath of it. 20 deep at her house and drag her off to jail for calling the guy who raped her a faggot. Now, I don't know the details of this case, but my guess is, if we know anything about England, if this guy was Muslim, she's probably going to get a harsher punishment than he does. And the reason I say she's probably going to get a harsher punishment than he does is because just last week, the Wales judge, Tracy Lloyd Clark, had previously freed a 33-year-old man convicted of raping a girl under the age of 14 due to prison overcrowding, sentenced another British man to 20 months in jail over a tweet. Not a tweet saying I'm going to go kill a bunch of people, but a tweet about how the mass migration and grooming gangs in their country that they have covered up for are out of control. A tweet. That's coming here next. They have no free speech over there. None. They can claim they have whatever they want. They don't. You had a guy just came to the United States on vacation. Came here on vacation. Decided he was from England. Decided I want to go out and shoot. Never shot before. Sounds like a fun experience. They got guns here. When in Rome, right? Went to a target range, shot some skeet, went home. Took a picture of it, posted it on, I think it was his LinkedIn account. Who uses LinkedIn? British police saw that, thought it was threatening. Just literally the guy with a shotgun like this. Trap shooting. Arrested him. The book 1984 could not make up shit as ridiculous as what you see in England. And make no mistake, it's coming here next if we don't safeguard our rights. They're going to do this shit here next. You can already see it happening in Minnesota. You get arrested in England if you criticize the government's cover-up of the grooming gangs over there for racism. If you criticize mass migration or other government policies, they will either send jackbooted thugs to your house to terrorize you or just outright arrest you. They don't do that here yet, but you've got people being let off the hook up in Minnesota because of their race, because they're not white Christians. That's the first step, because it doesn't all happen at the same time. That's the first step, is you import a bunch of people, like I said, who are culturally at odds with the indigenous population, and then you let them play by a second set of rules. Yeah, they can't commit the crimes, but the punishment's going to be a whole lot less harsh when they do it. And then you make it illegal for people to defend themselves. So this now imported group of people that's totally at odds with the indigenous culture is running around with two different sets of laws. So they're going to get 2 months in prison if they, rape a 13-year-old girl. But if you try to shoot them while they're doing it, we're going to put you, or you flash a gun to try to stop them, we're going to put you in jail for 5 years. If you're a woman who is being accosted by a man from another country while you're out on the street and you spray him with pepper spray, we're going to throw an assault charge at you. And then the last step, after you make it illegal to defend yourself against him, is you just make it illegal to criticize him. Or you make it very, very inconvenient. And we got the First Amendment here, so it'll be a little bit more difficult to do that. But you don't have to outright send people to jail. You can just threaten their job. You can send police to their house to fuck with them and bully them around. That's all you got to do. That's what they did in England. That's what they're doing here. England, there's like a couple of steps when it comes to the Cloward Piven strategy to burning the country down so you can rule over the ashes. If there's 5 steps, England's in like step 4. We're on step 2. We're a little bit behind them. We'll catch up. If we don't stop this, we'll catch up. Just watch. They're a couple steps ahead of us. We'll be there soon. If we don't buckle down, we will be there soon. Step 5 is Nigeria, by the way. Next one, Erica Kirk. They can't leave this poor woman alone. Check this video out, and I'll tell you the left's reaction to it.
They went to the weirdest places.
Oh my gosh. You guys, please. So for those of you who know me, I hug.
Yes, you're an intense hugger.
Whoever is like hating on a hug needs a hug themselves. I will give.
So they were talking about the J.D. Vance hug that we covered a couple weeks ago, and let me say this. I am not a fan of that hug. However, I don't think married men should be being embraced like that by women. I don't think women should be embracing married men like that. However, I don't think it's indicative that J.D. Vance and Erica Kirk are fucking. I think that's ridiculous. Right? Because here's the thing. If you're J.D. Vance and you're going up there just to hug your friend's wife, which that's fine. Your friend's widow. I don't have a problem with that. And then she pulls a move that feels, because I didn't realize. Mia put her hand behind my head the way she did to show me how that felt. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's not okay. Because you see it, it's one thing. But when you feel it, it's like, okay, yeah, now I can see why J.D. Vance's wife probably wouldn't be thrilled about that. The problem is, what do you do in that situation if you're J.D. Vance? What do you shove her away? Get off me, you harlot. I'm a married man. No, you roll with it. That's all you do. That's all you can do. Anything else, it's national news and it's distracting from the message. Like I said, Erica Kirk is grieving. We have never seen anyone have to grieve in the way she is, inheriting all this power and influence and money and all these people trying to get to her and all this negative commentary about her. This is uncharted waters in terms of a grieving widow, what we're seeing with Erica Kirk. It's possible that she's just a hugger and she's one of those people that's just touchy. It's also entirely possible that, because everyone grieves differently and it's usually weird, that she's going, man, I'm single. I'm going to throw myself at the vice president, my dead husband's best friend. I'm going to try to fuck him. That doesn't mean J.D. Vance is reciprocating that. That is, unfortunately, when people are grieving and they're in emotional states like that, hormones are running wild and stuff like that, they are more prone to doing taking some rash actions. That doesn't mean that he is reciprocating that. And there's no reason to believe that. And it's shameful to say otherwise. Now, the reason the left are criticizing her for that video, where she's reminiscing on hugging people, is because she pulled out a tissue and wiped her eye. If you listen to David Dunn 177, a leftist influencer on Twitter, he said, and I quote, "I guess Erica Kirk is just bringing tissues and wiping her eyes everywhere she goes now," end quote. Yeah. That's how a lot of women grieve. I remember my grandma carrying tissues in her purse for I don't know how long after my grandpa died. That, yes, I know you guys are demons who are devoid of a soul, but yes, when people are grieving and they just lost their husband, especially in that 40 years, 50 years too soon, his throat gets blown open right in front of you, especially in that tragic of a way. People are going to, have moments in public or elsewhere where they just start to lose it. That's not unusual. The fact that, and this has got like millions of views and thousands of retweets and tens of thousands of favorites. The fact that that so many people on the left agree with that shows you how devoid of a soul how many of them are. I think the problem here is that they don't understand what mourning looks like because they themselves have never loved anyone or anything enough to mourn them. And that's sad. That shows you how broken 30% of the country is. I truly believe that. That they see Erica Kirk acting weird and they think it's an act because they've never loved anyone enough to mourn them after they passed away. Because I think a lot more people than we're willing to admit are either sociopaths or demonically possessed and incapable of love. You want to know the other part? David Dunn 177 and people like him. No one's going to mourn you when you're gone either. That's what you people got to start realizing. You folks are alone. You are mentally ill. You are broke. You have nothing going for you. No one is going to mourn you when you're gone. The dog might miss you for a couple of days, but it'll move on to someone else that actually fucking feeds it. Takes it on walks, because you sure don't. You sit in your apartment all day and you argue with people you don't know on Twitter. Take the fucking dog for a walk. One more and we're out of here. It's actually a good segue. It's from the BBC. There's something that's been pissing me off lately because it's a situation I'm trying to deal with personally here. Not me, but someone I know. It's a BBC News article from last week. What does NEET, N-E-E-T, stand for, and how many are there in the UK? For those of you that don't know what a NEET is, it is an adult, it could be a male or a female. NEET, N-E-E-T, stands for Not in Education, employment, or training. So it's a grown adult who's not going to school, not working, and is not in trade school or some other, getting some type of certification. Something that can pay your bills. And what we found out here are there are 946,000 people under the age of 24 in the UK in 2025 who meet the NEET qualifications. 12.7% of their population. And if you look at the US, it's pretty similar, and it's rising. It's falling in young women and rising in young men. Now, part of that, when we talk about women, is skewed because they include stay-at-home moms in that. Now, I do not include now listen, there's no comparison between a woman who's staying at home or a man who's staying at home, taking care of the kids, cooking the food, doing the shopping, doing the cleaning, all that, while their spouse goes out and pays the bills. There's no comparison between that person and the guy who wakes up at 1:30 in the afternoon every day, smokes a bowl, plays video games, and goes back to sleep while he's living with his parents. No comparison. You could argue that the stay-at-home mom is contributing more to society than a lot of people who are actually working, like the HR ladies, right? So, who contribute nothing, by the way. Your diversity coordinator at your office job contributes nothing. HR is not a real job. It is globalist daycare to make sure women don't have babies. That's what HR is. I digress. We're talking about people that do nothing. People who contribute nothing. Grown men. Grown adults. That's their existence. There is an entire... I know for a lot of you listening to this, it's probably incomprehensible. There is an entire segment of the population, and it's not a fringe one by any means. It's about 12% of males under the age of 24 in the United States that do nothing all day. Nothing. Could you imagine doing nothing all day? Just constantly running in place. That makes me sick at the thought. Because like I said, I'm the type of person, I've got to be doing something all the time. It's part of why I have trouble getting to sleep at night. That and probably the 7 cups of coffee I have every day. They don't do anything. That right there is a sign of a broken society. And do you know who that comes from? Do you know the types of people that create an adult male like that? Because you hear that and people think, oh, it's you know, the super well-off parents that spoil their kid. Or no, it's not that. It's not those parents. I think about all the rich kids I knew from high school. They're all doing fairly well, actually. It's not them. It's not the abusive drunk parents either. It's the parents, and we all know a lot of people like this, but it's the parents who are there but not there. You know who I'm talking about. Pay your bills. When you're a teenager, they pay the bills, they feed you. Maybe you played a sport and maybe they went to like a 10th of the games. That's it. They don't care all that much. You don't really talk. They're just there. They view parenting as a job, as a task to be accomplished, as a box to be checked. And that's it. And that's what creates these types of people. Because if you don't care enough about your kid to parent them when they're a child, you're not going to care enough about them to tell them to get off their ass and get a fucking job or go to school or whatever when they're an adult. There's the big problem. Because when you hear about abuse, you think about hitting the kid, you think about neglecting them, about starving them, whatever. Not pushing your child to want to do anything is a form of abuse. It might be the worst form of abuse. Just letting your child from a young age be a fuck up might be the worst form of abuse you can enact on them. because that's something that is a habit that's going to form for the rest of their lives. When you're young, you're putting your brain on its tracks. You're saying, this is how things are done. This is how we're going to handle business. And when you set the precedent at a young age that doing nothing is acceptable, that is an incredibly hard trend to break. If your parents beat the shit out of you, yeah, you might have some PTSD or memories from it, but you can bottle that and use it, in a productive way. If you were taught to just not give a shit, I mean, you're fucked for the next 40, 50 years, dude. And we're starting to see a more extreme version of that in these NEETs. And if you look, there's forums for these people online. A lot of them are proud of it. A lot of them a lot of them have just accepted this is their reality. And this is what they're going to do. And it's depressing because I've done some research, and like I said, this article, the reason I'm talking about this is it hits a little bit closer to home than I would like it to. And I've done some research on these people, and the numbers are not good. You're looking 2/3 to 3/4 of them don't snap out of it. And it's not like, because when you think like an alcoholic, they hit their rock bottom before they get sober, right? This isn't the same thing. These people don't live in an environment where there is a rock bottom. They're not out burning bridges, getting drunk and doing drugs and fucking around on people. They're just doing nothing. And they're being enabled. The only rock bottom is if mom and dad give enough of a shit to kick them out of the house. And that doesn't happen very often. Because like I said, the precedent was set early on that we're never going to give a shit. So there's no rock bottom in a lot. The only way, it's just like an alcoholic. The only way these people are going to get fixed is if they hit a rock bottom. The problem is the rock bottom is rarely there. So what you're looking at in 2/3 to 3/4 of these cases is these guys will just continue to drift into their 30s, then into their 40s. And what happens is they'll take like a nighttime janitor job or something. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but they'll just take a job because they want to get out and make a little bit of money, but they'll never go anywhere with it. They'll be out of it in 6 months. The second they're inconvenienced or they think they've been wrong, they're done. And they're right back to sleeping in all day. Listen, if you're a man, and I know women are wired differently, so I'm not going to speak on behalf of them. If you are a man and you want to constantly improve, you have to find an enemy. And that enemy can be a person, it can be a group, it can be a thing, a concept. You have to find an enemy. And it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody you hate. But if you want to improve as a man, if you want to get better, you have to find your enemy. You have to find that thing, that person that pushes you up against the wall and puts pressure on you until you start punching back. Pressure makes diamonds, right? You think about the most advancements in the history of the United States was between the 50s and the 90s. What was going on between the 50s and the 90s? Well, there was this thing called the Cold War. We were in this race militarily, technologically, economically, all kinds of shit against the Soviet Union. And it showed because we were out inventing new shit every day. Rapid growth of technology in the United States. Rapid economic growth. I mean, it had ups and downs, but we came out on top. Because we had somebody. Soviet Union went away. Our only real enemy went away. Yeah, they talk about terrorist groups and whatnot, but none of them. There was no legitimate chance that Al-Qaeda was going to catch the U.S. in terms of being a world power. That wasn't a concern. We haven't had a real enemy since then, and we've stalled out. Michael Jordan didn't start winning NBA championships until he got sick of getting his ass beat by the bad boy Pistons. Tom Brady, his enemy was the fact that every single NFL team passed on him at least 6 times before he got drafted. You got to have some type of enemy. My enemy is my wife. No, seriously though. Not in the sense that, oh, I hate her, I got to take her down. That's not what I'm talking about. My enemy is the fact that she depends on me. That's what pushes me. The enemy is the thought of failing her in one way or another. And that's why, and I fuck up. I'm a human. We all trip and fall, right? I'm not saying I'm perfect. But the thought of letting her down or failing her makes me get up and push myself in more than just financially, physically, spiritually, mentally, all of it. Because I don't want to fail my family as a whole. I don't want to fail her. You got to have something that pushes you. There's got to be something that gives you not just that drive, but to kick it into second gear, third gear. What, I don't know cars. I don't know why I'm saying that. But something that's going to kick you into that next gear. And what you're seeing right now is a lot of men that don't have a purpose. So they sit at home, they play video games, they smoke weed, and that's it. And they hide. They hide from the people that make them hold a mirror up to themselves. I'm sure every one of you listening to this, I'm describing somebody you know, especially men. I'm sure I'm describing somebody you said, oh my God, he's talking about so-and-so. And I bet you haven't heard from so-and-so in quite some time. Maybe you should check on them. Because I think what people need, their parents aren't going to give it to them. I think what people need is a good tongue lashing from a close friend. I think people need to be told sometimes in the most loving and caring way possible, you're a worthless piece of shit. You don't have to be a worthless piece of shit. You weren't always a worthless piece of shit. But right now, you are a worthless piece of shit. And it might cost you your friendship with that person. But you and I both know you're going to lose that friendship anyway if you sit here and do nothing. So what's the risk? It's like throwing a Hail Mary at the end of a game when you're down by 5. Well, but what if I throw an interception? Well, then you'll lose. What if you don't throw the Hail Mary and you run the football? You'll lose. Good chance you'll lose either way. At least you throw the fucking ball, you got a chance, right? That's been our show. Check out our sponsors. Hot Salt, Firecracker.farm. With the promo code BASE, you'll save 10% off your order at the checkout on Hot Salt. Hot Salt is a combination of Mediterranean sea salt, scorpion pepper, Carolina Reaper, and ghost pepper. Hot Salt goes great on everything, and the best part is it's made right here on a family farm with love in the good old US of A. Firecracker.farm with the promo code BASED, B-A-S-E-D. You're going to save 10% off your order at the checkout. Go do it right now. Hot Salt goes great on everything, you guys, I promise. One more time, firecracker.farm, not .com, .org, .net, F-A-R-M with the promo code BASE. You're going to save 10% off your order at the checkout on Hot Salt. December 13th, next Saturday, be there. 9 p.m., Beach House Bar and Grill, Omaha, Nebraska, just north of 103rd and Fizort, Fort Street. You don't want to miss it. I'm donating all of my proceeds, as we do yearly, when we started the tradition last year, to help purchase Christmas presents for the kids up in Macy on the Omaha reservation, my wife's tribe. Donate to a good cause. That's been our show. See you on Wednesday. Mia will be back. Cheat on your taxes, not your spouse. And stay based.